Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. I have one of my all-time favorites, Sandra Ingerman, here today, and she's going to be talking about her book, Walking in Light, the everyday empowerment of a shamanic life. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you, CJ. It's great to hear your voice again.
I know you're a regular on my program because I so enjoy almost everything that you've ever written and talked about. I'm a
Thanks.
huge fan, and this book, to me, I don't know. So I interviewed you probably a couple years ago during the last political elections, and we were talking about politics. And since then, I had several meditations that said I needed to learn more about shamanism. And so over the last year and a half, I've been studying shamanism with Michael Harner's Institute and had the privilege of seeing him live, which was
Mm,
unbelievable because he's not very
great.
often out.
Yeah.
So I got into shamanism based on just a meditation, and people kept on, I'd have past life readings, and people would say, "Oh, you're a shaman." I'm like, what is that? What are you talking about? And they're like, "Well, you're a shaman. You need to explore this." And I thought, okay, I'll just take a class because I'm just really curious. How did you get involved in shamanism? What were the answers you were seeking, or how did
Mm.
you get involved?
Well, it's a little bit of a long answer because I think that I was born, as most people are, with some destiny to be doing this work. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was little, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, right in the city. But I had such a sense of the preciousness of life. I mean, I looked around me, I couldn't believe the colors. As everybody know, there are trees in Brooklyn and there are some parks, and I couldn't believe the colors and the bird sounds and trees. And so, I just really had this unbelievable connection, not just with nature, but I met the hidden folk, and different spirits would come to me, and I would sing to the moon every night, and I would sing to this tree every day when I came back from school. And then when I was 7, I was hit by lightning. And although I don't have a memory of it being a classic near-death experience,
Oh, you were literally
um,
hit by lightning. Okay.
literally, yeah, yeah.
Jeez.
And but my consciousness was definitely changed after that. I was more sensitive to the spiritual realms. And then I had two other near-death experiences later on in life that were more of the classic near-death experiences that you read about. But also, I grew up in the '60s when people were really looking for a different way of life, trying to move away from the norm. And I experimented with mind altering substances. I did the whole '60s thing and moved to the Haight Ashbury, and so there was always, I was born with this um, spiritual drive. Everything for
Hmm.
me was about expansion and opening up to spirit realms and seeing and perceiving life more than what we perceive in the tangible, and really respecting all of life, loving people, loving everything that was alive. But I didn't have anything formal. It was just I had spiritual experiences, lots
Hmm.
of spiritual experiences, wonderful spiritual experiences, but I didn't know what to do with any of them. I didn't have a practice,
Hmm.
and so I got my master's in counseling psychology at private graduate school in California, and I was working two jobs to put myself through school, and I was taking too many classes. I was completely overwhelmed. And somebody came into the office one day and said, some anthropologist is coming out from Connecticut. It was Michael Harner, who um, uh, wrote a book, and he brought shamanism to the West at a very early time when nobody was into shamanism. And it was a weekend workshop, and he taught us how to meet up with a helping, compassionate spirit. And I met up with this little being, and he stood there in my what's called a shamanic journey and started answering all my questions for me. And that was on Halloween of 1980. And I was just hooked. It was like all of a sudden I had a practice, something I can do instead of just having you know, experiences out of the blue and not knowing what to do with them, and, you know, not knowing how to receive my own personal guidance in life to help me improve my life and to also help improve the planet. So it's been a lifelong path for me. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to take this workshop. It was, my whole life has been, I'm 62 now, my whole life has been a spiritual adventure of opening to the spiritual realms, and it was really destiny that brought me to that workshop. I was just going for 2 easy units. I didn't even know if the workshop had gone. Nobody told me I did.
Oh my goodness.
School, they said, oh, you could get 2 easy units if you sign up for this workshop. So it was kind of like, you know, the universe picked me up and put me down in the right place. And my whole shamanic life has been like that. You know, I took the workshop and one thing led to another, and I started seeing clients and I started teaching workshops around the world. And it's just been that particular part of my life, not all parts of my life, but that particular part of my life has been effortless, you know, where the universe constantly provides, you know, some place for me to be that brings me to the next level of my work.
Okay, so give me an example of that journey, like the different, are they pivot points or just like steps along? You know, I'm imagining you just walking up steps to higher and higher levels, or what? How would you describe those points?
Yeah, shamanism is a life path, and there are 2 different aspects. I'm sure there's more. I'm oversimplifying here. The word shaman itself comes from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, and it means one who sees in the dark or healer. And so the typical definition of a shaman is a person who goes into an altered state of consciousness, typically through some form of percussion. They're mostly the drum, but bells and rattles and bowls and sticks and didgeridoos can be used to move into that altered state. And once the shaman goes into that altered state, a veil is open between the tangible realms and the invisible realms that are always here with us. And the shaman actually steps through into the invisible realms, and there's a whole host of what are called helping and compassionate spirits who just their whole purpose is to give guidance to us as humans of how to heal ourselves, how to evolve. And so in my own life, it started for me as I journeyed, it started with my own self-healing. I had a lot of issues that I felt I really couldn't heal in my own life. I dealt a lot with depression. Depression was a big story for me in my life. And so I met up with a helping spirit who taught me how to enjoy life, and how when I moved into depressive states of consciousness, how to ride those out. And, you know, he really helped me step by step. And then over time, after, you know, a couple of years of journeying, I was a licensed psychotherapist, and so I started introducing the practice of teaching other people how to journey, and started teaching workshops in the Bay Area, teaching people how to journey. And then my work really moved to the classical role of the shaman as healer, performing soul retrievals, bringing back lost parts of ourselves that got lost through trauma, or extracting intrusive energies. And then my path kind of moved to how do we use shamanic methods not just to improve our own life, but how do we use shamanic methods to heal the planet right now? And so when I said there are 2 parts to shamanism, oversimplifying it, there's the journey, the shamanic journey, which a shaman takes outside of time for direct revelation to get guidance. But shamanism is also a way of life, and so everybody in a shamanic culture was brought up in a particular way to honor and respect nature, each other, and everything that's alive in the web of life. And so when you put those, if you just journey and keep getting guidance, that's not enough to really evolve, not only for yourself, but to help the planet move through so many of the challenges that everybody's experiencing today.
Okay, so you move from kind of an individual look at self-healing and what can I do for my depression to then helping others to now it's kind of almost like you see kind of a telescoping lens where you're getting broader and broader in terms of the steps that you're taking along your path of shamanism to now healing the world. Is the lens, is
Yeah,
that the right lens?
yeah, absolutely. And, we're always on a path of self-healing. So
Mm-hmm.
the universe always provides situations for us to go through these initiation experiences, which I write about in Walking in Light because it's
Mm-hmm.
really a huge topic,
Mm-hmm.
especially for all of us right now who are going through so much change,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where the universe basically, in an initiation, what the universe is trying to do, it's trying to sculpt away at the ego so that the spirit can come through. So it's almost like the universe comes in and polishes you like a stone that can make it very bright in the world. And so every time we go through a change in life, whether it's changing a job or changing relationships or a health issue or even moving, and then those big, more cataclysmic changes that come in where maybe we lost a home through an environmental event or, a big
Mm-hmm.
health, life-threatening health issue is presented to us. These are all, from a shamanic point of view, what are called initiations, where we go through a change. We go through a transition. It's not an end. There's no end. It feels like it is sometimes. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, what's happening is we're sculpted into new beings, new evolutions of ourself. And so one of the things about being on a shamanic path, if you meet an indigenous shaman,
Mm-hmm.
people bring over indigenous shamans to work with Westerners, and they walk into a room and they see all these Westerners sitting there, and they go, why are all these people interested in shamanism? Because it's not an easy path.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody takes on the role of being a shaman, it is a life filled with huge initiations to keep allowing spirit to come through more. But in my feeling is everybody right now in the time that we're living in, we're going through big initiations.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I really try to teach in all of my workshops and all of my books is that there's a difference between being a shaman and practicing shamanism. So
Okay.
being a shaman is a destiny. It's something, you're chosen. It's not like, ooh, being a shaman sounds like a good idea. I sometimes get letters from people and go, I'd like to become a shaman. It looks like a good profession. And
Oh, I see.
yeah, from a shamanic point of view, it's like it's more of a destiny thing where the spirits pick you. And again, from an indigenous perspective, no indigenous shaman wants to be a shaman because life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
All these initiations are set up. But shamanism also has practices. It doesn't mean you're going to become a shaman, but everybody can learn how to perform a shamanic journey, to meet up with helping spirits, to look at how you can improve the quality of your own life and to heal yourself and to be a healing force in your community and in your family and in your workplace. Everybody should be learning shamanic practices to live a life of honor and respect and to open up beyond what we're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling in the tangible realms to what is going on in the invisible realms, meaning the trees are alive. When you're taking a walk in nature and you're thinking about something, a decision you have to make, and all of a sudden the clouds part and the sun comes
Right.
down. Everything is alive and everything speaks to us. And so in shamanic cultures, people were brought up to be able to recognize that everything was alive and to communicate with what we call everything that lives in the web of life, and to live from a place of honor and respect. And so that's not becoming a shaman. Learning how to journey and learning a shamanic way of life is something that is very important to all of us, and there's a huge resurgence. It's unbelievable from when I started practicing shamanism in 1980 to the resurgence right now. And it is time for us to own our power and to find methods of direct revelation, to own our own authority and to stop giving our authority away to other people, to really be able to tap into our own guidance, our own personal spiritual guidance, and to walk on this earth in a way that honors and respects the elements and the spirit that lives in all things.
But really, that when you're describing the difference between being a shaman and practicing shamanism is, in your case, it was your destiny. It's not something that you thought out. I mean, it was just, this is the way that you were.
Right.
Is that right? So that's not, I'm actually practicing shamanism. I don't know if I have any desire, and I don't know if even if I did have the desire of it come, it's like, I think you probably would know at this point if you were not, don't you think?
Yeah, I think what happens is the spirits lead you, so when people ask me, do you think I'm a shaman? I go, you're going to know, because the helping spirits are going to set up life initiations for you and situations in your life where you're just going to be led. It's not sitting down and wondering, I wonder if it's my destiny to be a shaman. It actually has a life of its own, where the helping spirits really start to lead you in a particular direction and show you how to heal other people and to work in a healing capacity, and then noticing, it's one thing to do healing work, it's another thing to really observe the results of your work. Shamanism dates back at least 100,000 years, and it's always been a result-oriented practice, because if the shaman couldn't find food sources and if the shaman couldn't heal the people, their communities died. And so it's always been passed down as a result-oriented practice. And so what I train my students who sign up for workshops on shamanic healing is watch the results that you get. Are your clients getting better from the work that you do? So you're led along the way,
right?
And,
you'll get reinforcement. But I wonder whether you can ignore that too. I mean, I went to a workshop and we were in Mount Shasta, which was beautiful, and someone asked me to do a healing, and I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. So I go and do this thing, and then stuff that I don't even believe in starts popping up in this non-ordinary reality, where I'm asked to go and take a Lemurian stone and perform this thing. And I don't even know what the ailment is, right? The way that they set up this thing is, I don't even know what the person's problem is. They just sit there, and then you just follow the advice of whatever you're hearing. And so I'm like touching this person's neck, I'm rolling it around, I'm imagining the Lemurian stone. I'm like, I don't know what is going on, but I'm doing it. I'm suspending all disbelief. And then afterwards, you don't even talk, because they go to the next person. So this person's giving me healing. So I have no idea what happened. Did it work? Did it not work? And he said, oh, I've actually had this chronic neck problem where I couldn't move my head more than, 5 degrees. And you just healed my neck, and I'm rotating around. And I'm in shock, because I'm thinking, now what the hell I'm doing? I'm just like channel, just, follow.
Yeah, well, what you're saying, I think, is so incredibly important, and I feel there's the positives of the resurgence of shamanism today. So many people interested in, and there's huge shadow side of so many people interested in shamanism. And one of the shadow sides is that the culture that we live in, the modern day culture that we live in, everybody's into methods. We're obsessed with methods. And show me how to do this particular healing. Wanting a teacher like myself or Michael Harner or somebody else to teach you these methods. And so what's happening in the modern day world, and I write a lot about this because this is a real trigger for me, this is a big issue for me,
Mm-hmm.
is that in a modern day world, we're creating a factory of shamanic practitioners who are learning the steps of a method, but there's no more power to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my fear is that there's the possibility that the practice of shamanism could die out because healing is not about methods, step one, step two, shake the rattle 4 times like this and turn in this direction and have your clients sit up and blow into them. That's not what shamanism is about. If
Mm-hmm.
you look at different shamanic cultures around the world, you never see two shamans working the same, ever. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing now in my healing workshops is exactly what you described of what you did in Mount Shasta is one of the first journeys I have people do who already know how to journey, so they're already experienced journeyers, is instead, before I teach them how I work and any method that I use, I have them pair up with somebody and to ask their helping spirits to perform a healing on them with no method that they've ever heard of before
Mm-hmm.
or learned about. And that's really true shamanism because
Mm-hmm.
shamans are just a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
We call it a hollow bone in the ethnographic literature. The shaman is called a hollow bone or an empty reed, where the shaman moves his or her personality and ego out of the way, becomes this vessel, this empty vessel, where the power of the helping spirits who live in the non-ordinary realms can come through and perform miraculous healings. And like I said, you'll never see two shamans working the same. But in
Mm-hmm.
our culture, people want to sign up for workshops where
I see.
instead of opening up and being a vessel, they're learning steps, you
I
know.
see. I see.
And that's not what shamanism is.
Right. Well, one is one more way more empowering to know that you don't have to know. Feels in some
Right.
way more releasing. You know, it's I. This is recalling uh, interview, not an interview, the during the Michael Harner workshop in San Francisco. It's just such a privilege to have him there because he doesn't come out very often.
Right.
And we had a big circle where we were all asking questions, and someone raised their hand, and I said, you know, I found this rattle, and they go into a very long story about the rattle, and they said, I'm wondering if you should tell me what I should do with the rattle, and he'd say, I think you need to journey on it.
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then the next person came up and said, you know, I have a question. You know, I'm wondering about this in my life and something else and la la la. And like, what do you think I should do, Michael? And he said, I think you should journey on it.
Right. Yeah.
After like
Yeah.
6 of these question
Right.
and answers, I'm like, I think you should just journey on it. Like, don't ask these questions anymore because it is
But
about direct revelation, right? That's the
it,
whole
it's
purpose.
all about direct revelation. And one of the things I find um, in in teaching shamanism today, one of the challenges that I find is that because of the society that we grew up in, our conditioning, it's very difficult for us to take time and reflect. Self-reflection is very difficult. So I teach these huge teleconferencing courses, and I just love them because I have people all over the world, and we can
Mm,
go really, really deep together. I've been blown away at how deep we go, and but there are some people who never did any kind of spiritual work, and so instead of when an answer comes, instead of either going back into a journey or going out into nature and just sitting for a while and going, what could this possibly mean? What could this answer possibly mean? What could this rattle possibly be showing to me? It's immediately within 15 seconds putting out a question over the internet. This is what I was shown in my journey. Who can interpret it for me? And
yeah,
it's basically it's that's what we're taught in our
right.
culture. It's a social conditioning thing of when you have a question, you ask for another authority figure in this world
Mm,
to answer it for you. And shamanism is really a practice of direct revelation. So It is. It's really difficult, and everybody who teaches shamanic journeying, just like Michael Harner, we're all saying journey on it, journey on it, journey on it, journey on it, and people go, don't tell me to journey on it, give me something here. And one of my students actually made T-shirts once, journey on it. But it's interesting because in a shamanic culture, people were more brought up in a self-reflective way, go sit by the lake or go sit by the river for 3 days and reflect on what you received in a vision quest. In our culture, we're not, it's not something that we're taught.
Right.
We didn't learn it growing up. It's not, and that's what people really need right now is how do we stop turning to outside authority figures, and how do we start to turn within, whether it's to the helping spirits or to our own intuition, because we were born with all the information that we need. And so one of the challenges that we're all facing in our time is not trusting ourselves and not trusting our own guidance and our own answers. And somebody out there knows more than I do. And that's not true. And we could really turn the planet around if people understood their own personal power, and that we all came in here with different pieces of the puzzle, and that it is our destiny, it's everybody's destiny, to understand how creative we all are and how intuitive we all are, and all the information that we were born with, and to start to share it instead of, I like to look at it as a feminine horizontal model. We're still living in that patriarchal vertical model. But I think that where the change is going to come, the positive transformation and change is going to come on the planet, is when we start to honor our own power, our own information, our own reliance on ourselves, and move more into that horizontal model.
Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point, I've been having a dialogue with a gentleman who he was in the field of construction. He got seriously injured and has now been almost bedridden because he ends up sleeping 16 hours a day, and he said he has suicidal thoughts all the time, and and you may call this initiation, a time where, there's life is bringing to him a very, very tough challenge and asking to initiate so that he can, carve out the ego and move into light. And it's really hard. Like if I sent it back saying like, hey, listen, one of the things that I thought was this is initiation, it'd be like, screw you,
Right, exactly.
What do you mean this is initiation? Screw you.
Right.
Or you know how there's always people like, I was actually really sad because my son had left on a long vacation. I was just sad to see him go. And my girlfriend's like, why are you sad? I'm like, just because I am sad. And she's like, well, what would happen if you weren't sad? I'm like, I don't care because I'm sad. It's like, just give me this moment to be sad. Can't I just have like 10 minutes to be sad before you try to turn me around and reframe it? And so I'm wondering how, when someone, clearly this gentleman is going through a really, really tough time. I couldn't even begin to imagine what his life would be like, or what to say, or how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I know that you yourself have gone through similar kind of situations where you've hit a
Absolutely.
block, like kind of a sense of helplessness or hopelessness. Now, would you view that, is that a crisis of a spirit when that happens, or what would you say is happening during those times when you feel so hopeless and helpless?
Well, I think we all go through periods like that, and I know the gentleman that you're talking about is extreme because he is contemplating suicide, and I have been through many periods like that in my own life, seriously contemplating suicide because I didn't feel I had the tools. and I felt so helpless, and it's not worth it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to push my book here. I'm really not. That's not my nature. But
Mm-hmm.
the reason I wrote Walking in Light was to give people tools for when you are that down, you know, how to start to dig yourself out. And so, number one thing would be if this gentleman was interested in doing some shamanic journey work. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, because sometimes when we're so lost in that feeling of helplessness and so down and out, we can't move out of the way to meet up with the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through months where sometimes where I can journey for somebody else, but I can't journey for myself. I'm too in my own stuff to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get out of the way to hear the spirits. But you know, that would be something I would at least broach that particular topic, especially people who are bedridden. Shamanic journeying can be an incredible freedom for them because they can move in
Mm.
their journeys and run again in
Ah, uh-huh.
journeys and see again. So I've worked with a lot of disabled people who get freedom in their journeys. And then the other thing, too, is I know that place of hopelessness and nothing's ever going to change. But from a shamanic point of view, and this is believed in other spiritual traditions, too, is what we feed grows.
Mm.
And so sometimes in my own life, I have to fake. I have to do the practices that I wrote about in Walking in Light, but I'm faking them because I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in them. You know, I'm
Mm.
too lost. And so some of those would be like, I'm never going to get better. You know, I feel like I'm never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to say, even if I don't mean it, I have to rephrase that to where do I want the outcome to be? Because from a shamanic point of view, thoughts are things.
Right.
And so that every time you have a thought and you say a word, you're actually manifesting. It's like I love to use the metaphor of spinning. I'm a spinner. I spin on a spinning wheel, fiber into yarn. And so if you think of it, you start something in the invisible realm. Shamans work in the invisible realms, and they
Mm-hmm.
spin something into the fabric of reality in this world. And so even if you're faking it, saying things like, I am healing now, or I will get through this. I am calling in the people and the situations and the healing that are helping me to get better at this
Mm.
point. And again, it might not be coming from a true place, but you have to. It goes back to the scientific model of neuroplasticity. You have to create a new route in the brain. You have to do it. And that's what neuroplasticity is all about, teaching people who are paralyzed how to walk again, is creating a new pathway, a new neural
Mm.
pathway in the brain. So how we do that on an emotional level is we change our thoughts. We start to focus on words such as, you know, I have Post-its all over my desk: radiance, love, appreciation, light, magic, expansion, exquisite, you know, words that when I'm really down, that are going to help to uplift me a bit. And then shamans are also seen as dreamers, that we're dreaming this world into being. So as this man is lying in bed dreaming, using his daydreams, because right now his daydreams are keeping that same dream intact,
Mm-hmm.
but using our daydreams to see, hear, feel, taste, smell, I'm feeling healthy and I'm smiling and I'm
Mm-hmm.
running through the wet grass, and I'm feeling the moisture in the air, and I'm smelling the smell of roses, and I feel a joy in my heart, and I'm hearing the birds sing, and it's not in the future, but it's here right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you step into that world and you actually perceive it. And so again, when somebody's in such a deep down place, the first thing is to acknowledge how you're feeling and not
Mm-hmm.
to deny it. I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
suicidal. That's how I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And here are the thoughts, the words, and the dreams, the daydreams that I have to start to use to shift my situation. And right now, I'm faking it and doing that work, but it does start to create new neural pathways in the brain. And so in the study of neuroplasticity, which is very similar to shamanism, what shamans teach, science is catching up to what people in ancient traditions knew.
Yeah.
There was a neuroscientist back in the 1950s, and I love the metaphor that he used. He talked about if you're sledding on a mountain and you keep sledding the same route, you always put your sled on exactly the same place and you go down exactly the same track, those tracks are going to go very deep.
Right.
But if you want to go a different route, you have to pick up the sled and start a new track.
Right.
And so that's what we have to do with the brain. And the brain will cooperate because we do have the power to heal ourselves. The brain will cooperate, but it is that daily, and it's hard. It's hard work.
Well,
it sounds so easy. Change your thoughts and
it's not.
It's not. But you got to do it.
You and I were talking earlier. We were. I had told you how I had like plantar fasciitis for 6 months, and then again this year I had a back injury that's kind of basically my body has been messed up for the last 6 months, and most recently, the newest manifestation is a shoulder issue. And I thought, okay, I just want this. So I looked at your book, and actually, if you look at my book, I have little stickies on every single journey. And then what I do is I muscle test on which is one that I need to do the most. So I did one where I did a dismemberment. And I just thought, I don't know what's happening, but I'm not healing the way that I want to be. It's taking so long. Why am I in pain? And I said, please take away, I went in and I said, please take away whatever are the thoughts that I'm having that are not conducive to healing, because I have a feeling I'm doing something that's not super helpful. And then I had this vision of someone coming, like a snake actually coming, one of my power animals coming in and kind of healing my shoulder. And for that moment, my shoulder felt great. And then after I woke up from the journey and got up and thought, oh, my shoulder feels better. And then moved it. I'm like, ow, it hurts again. And I thought it didn't work. And then that evening, I went to get a massage because it's just been in so much pain. But I was holding out the possibility. I've been walking and jogging, and I'm just thinking I'm healthy, I'm whole, I'm in alignment, my body is balanced. I'm just kind of going through this visioning, and by that evening, my shoulder was healed. And now, granted, it required someone else to help me in the real world and in this other world, but it happened. And so it didn't happen at that moment. I mean, something happened. Right. Maybe what the journey was a release that enabled that actual massage that I got to help, which it may not have had I not done that stuff. I mean, it doesn't even come out the way that you think, right? I mean,
right. Yeah, it doesn't come out in the way you think, and it also doesn't always come out in the timing.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into details about what I'm dealing with on a physical level, but I'm dealing with a very complicated physical issue, and the medical profession really doesn't have a permanent solution. They have temporary solutions.
Yeah, pain. Yeah.
So I'm working with the only woman in the world who has come up with an alternative solution to this, but it takes time. It's an exercise program. And how she describes it to people, because some people it can take many, many months before they even notice the slightest change, and I think this is true with the neuroplasticity and with everything I'm talking about with thoughts and words and daydreams, is that first an invisible foundation gets set up in your body where you're not seeing any change happening, and you're saying nothing's happening. But then once that invisible foundation starts to set up, something manifests on the physical level. And so I was thinking, I think a lot about it because, number one, I'm doing the program every day. But how it relates to shamanism, because I have so many students and I know so many clients who give up so fast. Well, I went for a shamanic healing and it didn't work. And what I found is that something does go on very deep on an invisible level that we can't see. And so I describe it as a seed that's been planted in the earth. There's a germination process that goes on. There's an invisible process that goes on, which is hugely a powerful process, but it's invisible. We can't see it. And so working with shamanic practices and with shamanic healing, part of the issue is we live in a culture where we want we want change to happen immediately. And whether, I teach the same thing in my workshops for healing environmental pollution, is don't give up, because so many people say we've been doing this work for years and it's not working, because you don't understand how much of the fabric of reality is starting to be a new fabric of reality is being woven into being, but you can't see it yet. And so the key with all spiritual work, not just shamanism, but with all spiritual work, is to do the work, and to, no matter what the outcome is to just do the work, and to understand that the desired outcome is going to come in the appropriate timing and in a possibly very surprising way.
I'm laughing because yesterday I did a journey, because I was telling you I did it in preparation for your book, but just also I do journeys all the time, and I've been falling asleep in my journeys. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like I'm falling asleep, and it's like a deep sleep. But then the minute I hear the drums that come back, I'm awake. So it's like, well, how could that be sleeping? Because I wouldn't, if I were fully asleep, I wouldn't all of a sudden hear the drums and come back. So I went and I journeyed and said, why is this happening? Am I sleeping? What is happening? And what I got was, it said, you think too much, so we just need to knock you out so we can do some deep work.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's level.
Yeah. I do tell people, I say that a lot goes on when we think we're sleeping during a journey, because it hits a level of the psyche. And the other thing that I talk about too is that if you look at shamanic cultures, shamans didn't lie down and journey. They danced and they sang and they drummed while they journeyed. And so this is the whole neo-shamanic movement of lying down with a CD and journeying is not how shamans have ever journeyed. And so I really get my students, I encourage them like crazy to get out a drum, stand up, dance, start to sing your journeys, and people can't believe how much deeper they're going in their journey, bringing that action, that physical action, as shamans always did throughout the world. You really don't see any cultures where shamans lie down and journey.
So people can actually drum and actually visualize the journey when they're doing
yes.
it. Okay, I've never tried it. I have to try that to see, because I may just be sleeping, but I'm holding out the belief that it's something deeper. At least that's what I've been told is happening.
I've always liked to drum for myself. I've never liked listening to drumming. I need more of that active process. It really helps people. It cuts down one of the challenges that we have in shamanic journeying, just like in meditation, is mind chatter, and doing some drumming or rattling while you journey, dancing and singing. You can't be thinking about something else and chanting your journey at the same time. It helps to cut down on the mind chatter.
That's a good tip. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do, and sadly I didn't manage the time well enough. There's a part that you're talking about finding. There's a chapter called Finding a Light Within, and you've been talking about your transfiguration light work, and you say that I believe that working with light will be how we heal in the future. So you're saying that you still perform soul retrievals, power animal retrievals, etc. But you're beginning to view this transfiguration light work as the ultimate healing. So I wanted to talk slightly, if we either experience through meditation or talk about it. Which, do you have a preference?
Well, I can do both.
Okay.
Do we, how
We
many
have we
minutes?
have like five minutes. Could we do?
Okay, I can do a little bit of both.
Okay.
So basically, what, very long story, so I'm not going to tell the long story, shorten
Okay.
it. I worked with through a dream, and a helping spirit showing me through a dream how light heals.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I brought into my shamanic work, and we did a lot of scientific experiments where we polluted water and uh, and worked with this particular way of working that I'm going to share now and lead everybody into now. And we found that the water moved back to a place of neutrality and to a place of health. And since then, we've worked with all different kinds of polluted substances and
Mm.
people who are ill. And so in this
Mm.
particular work, you're not sending light. You're not sending anything. You're not sending healing. The belief is as above, so below, as within, so without, which means our outer environment is always going to reflect back our inner state. So if we move into a place of light, everything in the outside world, whether we perceive it as ill or polluted, is going to start to reflect back a state
Mm.
of health and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about body, mind, and spirit, but who we are beyond our skin is where spiritual light, like the light of the sun or a star in the night sky. And when you think about a star in the night sky, a star doesn't try to shine. It's not like, oh, I don't have the energy to shine today. And it's not saying, oh, I think I'm going to shine my light on Sandra Ingerman in Santa Fe, New Mexico. A star just radiates. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the point of the work. And so those of you who would like to try this, if you just want to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, some cleansing breaths, just some deep breaths in and out, just to allow yourself to put aside your ordinary thoughts and concerns and all the words that we've been talking about, and move into a place of heart of really thinking about what you love about life and nature and the beings that you love, and just breathe in and out. And as you do that, to travel within and within yourself, go into your own inner world, your inner landscape, and just imagine. Imagination is a God-given gift. Use your imagination. Imagine a star shining within you, radiating, and absorb the light of that star into every cell of your being, just like a dry sponge that's been put in water, or a flower that soaks in the rain or soaks in the sun. Or you could imagine an inner sun within you and do the same. Or you can imagine a flame. And first just allow that light to be absorbed into every single cell of your being. And as you feel that being absorbed, just let it flow effortlessly. Don't try to send it anywhere. Just let it flow throughout you, through the room that you're in, and throughout the planet. And just radiate. Just be a light in the world, like the old mystics have talked about for thousands of years. And there are so many shamans who talk about that they only heal from being a presence of light. We heal through our presence, not by what we do.
Mm.
And now just take a few deep breaths and don't disconnect from that light, but bring your consciousness back, because it's time for us to end. But you can continue this practice by putting on some nice music that you like, that's expansive, and just do this for about 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. And as you go also into the grocery store, into the bank, or in traffic, imagine yourself just radiating light and being a light and uplifting all of life. And that's how we can transform and heal ourselves and the planet.
Mm, beautiful. I'm wondering whether the gentleman who I've been corresponding with could just do that alone.
Mm.
He doesn't have to think. Just if you shine light, Because to me, it does seem like a different approach. You can either go in and try to uncover all the stones and the blockages, or you could just shine light, which the mere presence of light would help heal those things
Absolutely.
without knowing, needing to know what is it that's blocking me, what's the problem, what's the health issue. If you just shine light, it seems like a completely different approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have some miraculous stories in Walking in Light about people who were healed of terminal illnesses by a practitioner perceiving them in their light instead of as ill.
Mm-hmm.
So the client perceives themselves in their light, but the practitioner perceives the client in light too.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a tremendous amount of healing.
Mm-hmm. I love the
So
idea of
to
that.
see this man in his light instead
Mm-hmm.
of his suffering.
Mm-hmm. And there's something about that you mentioned in your book. We're talking to Sandra Ingerman, Walking in Light, the Everyday Empowerment of a Shamanic Life. Something you talk about in your book, that it's about your being, not necessarily your doing. It's not like I'm shining light at you and I'm trying to bask you in
Right.
light. It's like I'm
Right.
just being this way and I'm connecting to you, and just my mere being, like you said, inside, within, whatever, within, without, or whatever, within and outside, just like you did with the water, right? Just the
Right.
mere bringing that light is actually healing all
Absolutely.
those things, just because you're being that way. Um, it was so nice talking to you. Thank
I
you.
know. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks again, and thanks for the brilliant work you do, and enjoy your journeying. I'm so happy to hear that you're
Yes.
so deep on this path. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about if people want to sign up for your classes. It sounds like you do some online classes. How does one start?
Well, the best thing to do is visit www.sandraingerman.com. I'm sorry, sandraingerman.com, and I have a very old-fashioned website only because I want to keep it so user-friendly. There's articles and a monthly column that you could read, but you can also go to the training section and you can see what I'm doing and what you can sign up for.
Great. Thank you. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Rebel. Thank you for everyone listening, and everyone have a great, great weekend. Thanks so much, everyone. Okay, good. Well, that was, I know you were worried, like, do we have enough to talk about?
Oh, well, I always have. I mean, I can always go on and on and on. I could do an interview by myself. It was just some of the questions I felt were going to lock me in.
Yeah, no, I got that. And actually, what was
Yeah.
interesting, after I got your email, I thought, okay, well, just...
I could have taken your questions and just gone into other places. I'm used to doing that.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, no, I have to go in other places. So just come up with a different way of approaching us. So I think we almost covered everything on here.
Yeah,
Surprisingly,
great.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'll send me a link so I can put it
Yes,
on my website.
absolutely. Well, and I'd love to take some of your classes. So they're online classes that I can take too, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing classes through the Shift Network. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No. Okay.
They're huge teleconferencing. And, so there are some things, and we can chat back and forth through email. I'm mostly training teachers now, so I'm not
okay.
other work.
Wow. Okay.
But I can chat with you more over email about what's available.
Okay. Okay. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I hope that your back feels better over time.
Yeah, thanks. And
Okay.
I hope you feel good, too.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Rebel. Okay. Yes.
Skype me right back.
What?
Can you Skype me right back?
Yes. Here. Are you there?
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show, and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.